Do you ever wonder what could have happened if things went differently? Who knows what happened? Who fucking knows?
In the blue corner, Tim Welch.
Tim Welch was probably the more well-rounded fighter.
What is your biggest regret in your fighting career? Do you ever wish you were still in the cage? I'm trying to think if I regret something in my career, because I'm like, okay, if that wouldn't have happened.
The second round, both guys come out guns a-blazing.
If that wouldn't have happened, if I wouldn't have broke my jaw, I won that fight, okay, I get in the UFC, win some fights, who knows what would have happened. But I don't really regret anything. That happening put me on this path. It put me with this community I have. It put me owning these businesses and put me on the path I'm on. Like, it's hard to say.
Sean O'Malley is a champion. That was a knockout punch. There he is, Tim Welch, the coach of Sean O'Malley. An incredible performance.
So no, I don't really regret anything.
In today's episode of The Rest Factor, we sat down with Tim Red Hawk Welch, former professional MMA fighter turned elite coach and the mastermind behind UFC champion Sean O'Malley's rise. Known for his holistic approach to peak performance, Tim shared deep insights into how recovery, mental resilience, and unconventional methods shape champions inside and outside the cage. This episode is packed with actionable wisdom on the intersection of recovery, mindset, and high performance, whether you're an athlete, coach, a peak performer in any field. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Rest Factor podcast. I'm your host, Anna Marie Schick, and on today's show, we have Tim Red Hawk Welch. Welcome to the show, Tim.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
Yes. So I wanted to focus for a minute on your transition from fighter to coach. I can imagine that was quite an adjustment for you, although at the same time, quite natural transition when your MMA career was cut short. Your MMA fighting career was cut short due to injury. How did that experience shape your coaching philosophy? And secondly, your emphasis on recovery and the role that it plays on longevity, not only your personal longevity, but in an athlete's longevity in the sport.
Yeah, for me, I've always been kind of ever since I was 20 years old, I'd be in the room and sometimes run in practice from 20 to 21 years old. There's grown men in the room and I'm kind of running practice. So I've always had that kind of leadership quality in me. And after I had my jaw broken, pretty severely broken and wired shut for 8 weeks, I was just so bummed out because I worked so hard to get to this point, and it was a fight that I was supposed to win, and it was just a lucky random thing happened, and it really put me on the track to be a full-time coach now, and I wouldn't have traded it for anything. It was just like, I'm so lucky that happened to me, and it put me on a good path. So now I'm able to give everything back to all my younger students and all the things I've learned from all the different nutrition coaches and all the different MMA coaches, jiu-jitsu coaches, wrestling coaches. I've been around so many great coaches in my life, and to be able to give it all back now, it feels really good. So the transfer from being a fighter to a coach, it wasn't like some people would think, like, oh, it's this heartbreaking thing. Like it was a heartbreaking thing, but I just made the best of it. Everything that's bad that's ever happened to me, there's just something good that's going to come from it. And every surgery I've had, every injury I've had, I've always had that mindset, and I've always grown a lot. After every single injury, I've grown in different ways a ton. So I wouldn't change it for anything. And I mean, the rest and the recovery, it's just in the top two most important things for our sport, because our sport is so physically demanding, twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. It's so demanding on your mind, and it beats down your body. So the rest and recovery has been a real passion of mine for a long time. And I've got to learn from some great coaches like Paul Chek. He's a holistic nutritionist, and I've got to do a lot of his programs. And Tim Ferriss, I started learning from Tim Ferriss, Tools of Titans. I think that's where I heard about you guys and heard about the Chilipad and stuff. Yeah. And I mean, especially if you're living in Arizona, if you're a fighter in general, or if you're a combat athlete, or if you're an athlete in general, I mean, you definitely need a Chilipad for sure.
Yeah. 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 Well, thank you. Um, Back to your holistic training philosophy. Your coaching integrates holistic health practices, if I'm not mistaken. And like you said, inspired by experts like Paul Chek, also Ben Greenfield, I hear, who's also a friend of ours. Have these influenced your approach to training and recovery in so far as how you deliver the message to your athletes? I mean, one thing obviously is the training, the physical training that you give them, but is there also an element to bringing your philosophy of holistic training in to the training, to the preparation of your athletes?
Yeah, for sure. And I think hearing it from me, I mean, I'm a young punk kid, not anymore a young punk kid, but I'm still a punk kid. Tattoos, didn't go to college, didn't do this normal route that most people do. So I'm able to connect with a different audience than most, than more the uptight, really straight edge people. And I'm trying to make it like a cool thing, the recovery and the rest and eating healthy and staying hydrated and taking care of yourself, making it a cool thing. Eventually, sometimes they're going to buy in right away, but sometimes because they respect us and they respect me, they'll buy in right away. But a lot of times they're going to have to go through it themselves. I mean, you get these guys that are 19, 20 years old. They don't warm up. They don't eat good. They're eating fast food. They're doing all this and they're able to get away with it because they're so young. But then once you're in this sport for 10 years and it starts coming around the age of 28, 29, you've been in the sport for a decade, they'll start coming to me and be like, oh my gosh, like I have this injury and I have this injury and I'm inflamed. My whole body's inflamed all over. And I'll ask them first thing, just what are you eating? And then how hydrated are you staying and how good are you sleeping? How many hours do you sleep in a week? I'll try to cover those bases first. And eventually they start buying into it. And then also bringing that energy into the gym, not coming in there with a sad, mopey attitude or gossiping about people, coming in there with positive energy, always in a good mood, always sharp, ready to learn, ready to teach. And I think just leading by example helps the most.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Touching on mental resilience for a moment, could talk to us a little bit about the psychological demands of MMA. People often, they see the rough and tumble, the brute, they see the physical aspect, the physical nature of MMA. How do you integrate mental conditioning without giving away your secret sauce into your training program? I know that mental conditioning is huge for you. You focus a lot on the psychological demands of MMA.
Yeah, I mean, there's little things you can say, little things you can do, but it's really no secret. You have to come into practice and you have to exhaust yourself. You have to get your heart rate high and you have to push yourself to complete fatigue every single day. And then learn to be familiar when you're there, when your heart rate's 200, going 200 miles per hour and you got a guy attacking you, trying to defend you. You got to just be comfortable being uncomfortable and just be used to being in those high pressure situations. So just repping it every single day, finding somewhere to push yourself, whether you're on the treadmill, whether you're doing your weightlifting or your wrestling practice or your MMA practice, just being consistent with having hard practices is going to make you mentally strong. Nothing you do or read or anything is going to combat that because there's so much stress that goes in to your mind when you have a fight booked. When you know there's another professional out there who's training to beat you up in front of your family, in front of a big crowd, in front of all your friends, in front of your coaches. He's trying to take half your money because if you lose the fight, you only make half the amount of money you make if you win. So there's all these pressures on you. But a big thing is, like I said, coming into practice, working hard and focusing on the things you can control. There's 1,000 different things that can happen in a fight. So not really focusing so much on the outcome of the fight, win or lose, just every day trying to be present in the moment and having a good practice every single day. And I always talk about it at my gym. I'm more proud. I'm not crazy about the result of the fight, but I'm crazy about how did you prepare? Did you do everything you can to prepare for the fight? And if you did that, then regardless, win or lose, we're going to learn something from it.
Awesome. In talking about preparedness, I read something really interesting as a parent of teenagers. Your focus on social media detox. From something I read in preparation for UFC 316, O'Malley cut off social media. And in today's digital age, do you think such a detox is beneficial or detrimental to a fighter's brand and mental health? Like there's, again, a fine line between they've got to have their brand, but how do you draw that line and how do you coach your athletes, and namely O'Malley, to do that social media detox?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, because when you sit down with the UFC or you sit down with any of these promotions and you're negotiating your contract, they're going to look at your social media presence. And if you have millions of followers, then you're going to have some more negotiating to do there. But if you're just
Right.
like, I'm going to stay off social media, and you don't really have a name, you don't have a lot of fans, a lot of people that tune in when you fight, then that's going to be in their favor. So it's a weird one. But Sean, he's at the place where he's so big on social media, his brand deals are so big, and he has the money that he can hire someone else to do it. So for him, he's
Right.
got 2 babies now, and his main goal is he just wants peace in his life, and to have peace in his
Right.
life. You wake up and look at all these negative comments, and they go into your mind. Even if they don't affect you a ton, they still go into your mind, and thousands of input from people that you don't even know, that you'll never know. It takes a
Mhm.
lot out of you and a lot of pressure. And it's crazy just how addictive these things are. And even for me, I'm not at the place he's at yet to where I can completely put it down. I can't wait till I am, but I'm not there yet. But they're just, man, it is absolutely crazy. But I think it is important too to just, when you are on social media, who are you following? Are you following guys like Paul Check or Ben Greenfield or different chefs or cooks? Are you looking at positive stuff, or are you only looking at boobs and you're looking at just drama and just toxic stuff? So being able to, I mean, it all comes down to a lot is being able to meditate and just kind of be able to see what's going into your brain before you just start just like being a robot. So I always encourage my athletes to just have some sort of meditation practice, even if it's the Sam Harris Waking Up app where he teaches you to meditate. He starts with 3 minutes a
True.
day, and then he builds and builds and builds, especially in fighting. When you're in front of 20,000 people, millions of people online, being able to be in the present moment and focus on your technique, focus on your breathing, focus on the things you can control, that is a real superpower. And that's something that has helped Sean get to the level he's at, is just having a meditation practice. But ever since he's gotten off social media, he says he just can't even explain in words how much more at peace he is and how less
That's the
anxious he
word.
is.
That's awesome. That's incredible. So yeah, I guess it's more of, from a sleep coach perspective, I just want people off their screens, period. But it goes deeper than that, right? It's especially at night, right? But it goes a step further than that. It's not just that you are receiving the light and the cues of staying awake when you're at night, but it's also the content that you're receiving and what you're feeding your mind and your brain with. And so that if it is a character building content, if it is a fortifying kind of a nourishing your soul type of content, that absolutely can work to our favor. So it's, again, like everything, it's in moderation, but that's really cool. And the fact that was brought to the forefront, that was part of his training protocol, or that was one of the focuses that made it different from other fights or from previous preparation. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it really wasn't even so much for the fighting. It was just how are we gonna and just improve our lives? We have a beautiful property, this huge property. We have like money, and we're on paper we're very successful, but it's just like, still, how do we just enjoy this and be in the moment and enjoy what we have and be thankful for what we have? And the phone was
Sure.
a big one with him, and he says it's life changing, and he never wants to go back to being on it
That's
every day.
awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, I hope that continues for sure, and that you get to the point where you can as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Pivoting just a little bit, and I'm bringing this up only because it's just brought up so often, and I like to hear from authorities like yourself, your perspective or your take on cannabis and recovery. O'Malley has been open about using cannabis for recovery at times, but recently abstaining, leading up to fights. What is your stance on cannabis use in athletic recovery? And do you think that this affects performance either before, during, or after fights?
And this is another one. We've been doing our podcast for probably 7, 8 years now, and we used to be just so about it, so about it. And I kind of regret that, talking about that so much, because there's so many young kids that watch us and learn from us and think it's cool. And I mean, before 25, when your brain's still developing, and then you're just any sort of anxiety you have, you smoke some weed, or then you just start doing it all day, and then you start getting addicted to it. I think it can be most of the time pretty negative at this point. But I do think if you get a good vaporizer, they're called Storz and Bickel vaporizers. So you put the flower in there. You can do them at a very low heat, so it's not burning all the benefits of the cannabis. You can do it at a low heat. And I think if you earn that, you get all the stuff you need to get done throughout the day, and you have a little bit of that at night. I truly do believe it benefits you. But again, I think everyone's different. But I mean, anyone listening to it that's not 25, I encourage you not to do it, because I just see so many people, so many talented guys that are just wasting everything because they're just smoking weed. You smoke some of that weed, and then you start talking yourself into, oh, maybe I can eat that donut, or man, I don't need to go to practice. I'll just enjoy life and chill out. It does kill your motivation a little bit.
Self-sabotage.
Yeah, and then you go into practice and you can't remember what your coach is teaching you because you have just a little bit of memory loss from this marijuana. So I do think for the right people, it can benefit you. But I think for the majority of people, I don't think it's very good.
Yeah. And actually, just a little scientific disclaimer as well. Weed has been known to cannibalize your REM sleep. And REM sleep is where we're processing information gained throughout the day, and techniques and tactics and things that you've learned. And that's a lot of your emotional support and emotional processing happens during REM sleep. And if you're affecting that negatively by the use of extensive use of weed, that also could be a reason why they're not performing, with clear mental acuity when they're in the cage as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do think though, like if you're a healthy person, you eat good nutrition, you sleep good, you stay hydrated, and maybe you're a creative person, so you're on YouTube or Snapchat or Instagram. I do think once in a while doing a little bit of herbs can give you some really good creative ideas, open some different neural pathways in your brain, and look at something from a different perspective and give you some great ideas. A lot of my ideas that I've gotten on social media that really blew up came from working out, doing a little puff of weed and working out. And I'm like, oh, there's an idea. Boom. And I go do it. So I think there is a lot of benefits of it, but I think you have to be dialed in as a person. I think you have to eat good. You have to eat healthy and work out and be a healthy person to really feel those benefits.
Yeah. Well said. And before I let you go, I kind of wanted to hone in on your own kind of routines. What has worked for you? You've been known to have kind of science-backed nighttime routines, environmental adjustments that you might make, dietary considerations that you have. What works for you, Tim Welch?
I always feel like keeping my phone off in the morning and not grabbing that thing first thing. And I'm lucky enough, I have a red light and I have a PMF machine, and I learned the PMF machine, I think from Tony Robbins. I saw him doing it in a video. We went down to Tijuana to get some stem cells, and they had a PMF machine. So I started researching it, and I got one of those, and then the red light first thing in the morning. So I'll crawl out of bed and I'll go straight to my red light and PMF, do a 20-minute session, put on a little meditation. Right after that, get a big glass of water, head out and just do some light movement, some yoga type stretches, some cat cows, and just get my body moving a little bit in the sun. And then do usually a light workout, and nothing crazy where I'm pushing the pace and really pushing myself. I stay consistent with it. I do it every single day. It's almost a physical therapy type workout, not heavy weights. Do that. Come inside, make a coffee, make a breakfast, and I just feel like I'm primed up for the day, and I go into the gym for the first practice with great energy and just ready to go. And that routine has done me good. And the mornings I can fit a little bit, 10 minutes, 15 minutes of reading in there. That helps too, but I've been sticking with that for a lot of years, and it's been good for me.
I commend you on your answer, because my question was talk about your nighttime routine. And the way that you talked about your nighttime routine was starting with what you do when you wake up. And truly successful in my opinion, people in performance in general, elite performance, they grasp the concept that your nighttime routine starts with what you do when you wake up. You're preparing yourself from the moment you open your eyes for going to bed. And what you do in that time in the middle completely sets you up for a night of successful, productive, restorative sleep or not. And I love that when I asked you that, you started with what you do in the morning. So that's awesome.
Yes.
And then how?
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
In the night, I get home around 7:30 to 8. I get home from the gym, so I do get home a little bit later. Usually, my wife, she's here. She's feeding the horses and feeding the chickens, and then she makes a dinner, and we do a dinner that's not really heavy in carbs, so we don't do a ton of bread before bed, just because we both sleep better that way, because we have the Oura rings where we track our sleep, and we have a little contest between a bunch of our friends, our sleep and readiness.
That's good.
And then I just make sure I stay hydrated, and I put on my blue light blockers, and we have been watching a show. Usually I go in my room and go to sleep. For a lot of years I did that, but now me and my wife will put on a show and just watch some TV and then fall asleep. So nothing really crazy with the nighttime routine besides not stuffing our guts with some heavy greasy meal.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess it goes without saying also not heavily ingesting alcohol in the evenings, correct?
Yeah, we don't do any alcohol. I mean, from studies I've seen, alcohol is the number one performance dehancer out there. So the fact that it's even legal is crazy. So we don't really do alcohol ever. And then about 8:45 every night, I'll put my phone on airplane mode, and then I'll put it in the kitchen and then head to the room.
Those are huge, huge. I mean, you say you don't really do anything, but those things that you do are absolutely instrumental. And I'm going to steal that term, dehancer. I like that a lot. Performance dehancer. I'm going to be using that. Well, where can people find out more about what you have going on, your latest endeavors, and find out more about Tim Red Hawk Welch?
On Snapchat, at Tim Welch MT. On Snapchat, I usually kind of do mini vlogs of my days and my morning routines and making my coffee and my breakfast. At Tim Welch MT on Instagram and YouTube. That's pretty much it.
Awesome. And then the Red Hawk Academy, does that have its own page as well? I can imagine it's got its own following.
Yeah, at Red Hawk Academy AZ on Instagram, and that's the website also. And there's really good coffee shop. I do pride myself on the coffee. We have some of the best lattes in town. Organic, fresh beans delivered weekly. We use organic milk and homemade sweeteners. So it's really phenomenal coffee. If you're ever in Peoria, AZ, pop by. I'll give you a tour of the gym, and then you can try out the coffee.
That's awesome. I'm putting it on my list, Tim, for sure. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been awesome getting to know you and getting to learn more about what makes your success. So thank you again, Tim.
Thanks so much, Anna. We'll talk to you soon.
Information, inspiration, and opinions are my own and are not intended to be medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider before making any changes to your diet, exercise routine, medical treatment, or if you think you may have a sleep disorder. Conversations I have with subject matter experts are intended to continue our efforts to optimize your sleep for better health, more energy, and improved physical and cognitive performance.